Hello. I had planned to make an outdoor video and give you a nice nature setting to look at visually, but the weather today is such that you just get that awful wind noise coming down the microphone of the phone. Not very pleasant to hear. Perfect example of why we should not fix to anything and create a win-win situation. So change what you can and recognize what you cannot change. So in this particular instance, I can still make a video because I have not fixed to the idea of it has to be done outside. I can equally make a video sitting inside. So you haven't got that awful wind noise to put up with. So that is a strategy and something to adopt in your daily life, I feel. So you have this win-win situation, like the twin caduceus. There's two ways, and it's doing this flexible, seeing both sides and still achieving that sort of raising man up, as it were. Now, if you observe clouds, consider something about those clouds, that they contain water droplets, and how much does a cloud weigh, and where does gravity now come into this? So consider what would hold those clouds up in the sky if they are weighing immense weights with the water droplets. You may even have seen a strange phenomenon where you'll see these rather artificial looking clouds that look like grid patterns. Well, obviously water conducts electricity, and there are other particles and things in those clouds apart from the water. So when you also consider that anything electrical generates a field, that may be why the clouds are held up there, but not allowed to ascend far enough to restore that vapor canopy. It is being repelled and held in a balance, because everything in this reality is about balance. If you go too high up a mountain, you have less oxygen. If you go too deep in the water, the pressure is too great. That's just one example. So in the physicality sense, it is even shown there to stay in the middle, in the balance between the two. Don't go too high, don't go too low. Nothing too hot, nothing too cold. It will harm you. Both will burn, incidentally, if it's ice cold at sub-zero temperatures or if it's extreme heat. Because you have such a thing as frostbite, which is a burning sensation. So yes, consider what is holding the clouds up there. There is an expression about living off-grid. There is a saying about we are all born of sin. Well, consider that sin is another name for the moon. So of course we're all born, we're born under sin, as it were, in a physical form. And living off-grid, well, you're under a sky grid, a sky net that is above us that you can't see. It is outside the range of the five senses, but you can see the phenomenon in the clouds. Another thing that you can observe, and I have done this quite recently, 20th of December, I watched and observed the sun at its lowest point in the sky. The view I have, there are two tower blocks, 13-floor tower blocks, and the sun was going behind those tower blocks on the 20th of December. Now, 2.5 weeks later, that is not the case. The sun is now higher in the sky because the sun would appear to reach its lowest point. It is said to die from the perspective of the northern hemisphere, or the inner circle between the North Pole and the equator. It's just perspectives. But my observation now is seeing the sun higher in the sky because it is on its ascension. I wonder where that observation has been turned into something else. There's a saying about if a lie is told often enough. Now what if that applies to a story that is fixed to a historical setting, for example? Now I can give you an example of this with Wagner's Ring Cycle. First performed in 1876, and if you look at all the artists' renditions of the stage sets and the early photographs, you'll see that the Ring Cycle is set in a very medieval German Norse mythology setting. And it's talking about the underworld, Middle Earth, and Valhalla in the sky, the heavens as it were. But in 1976, the centenary year, the stage setting was an enormous aircraft hangar, and the singers on stage were in modern clothing, dressed up as businessmen with a briefcase and so on. But the story is still the same story. Consider that when you come to something like the Bible. It is far more than it would first appear, and there are deeper meanings within it. I've mentioned this in a previous video, and I've made a community post on this. Anna Brown gave a brilliant explanation of John 14:6 about no one sees the Father except through me, except through the Son, and what that implies. Notice also it is John 14:6, which the sum of 14 and 6, 1, 4 and 6 is 11, which is transformation. I've said before that letters are basically glyphs that are strung together that create a spell. See if we can get this one to show clearly on here. Look at the W there. Can you see the IXI being displayed? The double V, it's not actually a W, is it? It's a double V. It's a significant letter. So if we look at another 11 in the God spell of John, we come to John chapter 1, verse 1. And I'm going to read through to verse 5 on this. The Word became flesh. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. I've deliberately emphasized the was, because we're talking about something that is infinite, but now it's talking what would appear to be in a past tense. But the word was, let's look at that in more detail. The W. What does the W represent? It is an inversion of the M, so you can say you have man and woman. The male principle, the pater or the pattern, which is the seed, which is the idea, is made manifest in the physical reality when the M is connected with the W. Its inverse, or its reverse, its mirror image, man and woman, the M and the W. And of course, with these avatars, for something to be made manifest and given a physical form, it comes out of the W, out of the womb, the woman. The creator of life is in the feminine principle, the mater or the material. So you have a physical example of that you can readily see. So the W, it replicates basically what the sun does in the sky. It's that sine wave between the Tropic of Capricorn at its lowest point, and then it goes across the equator, the Passover, and it ascends towards the Tropic of Cancer, and then it starts its downward descent, crossing over the equator and going back down to Capricorn, and then it repeats again. So you can see the W. You can also see the M pattern, that wave. So the word was, with, what does that actually mean then? The W is showing you it is a sine wave. It is an expression. Now, where are we? Well, if you take the magic out of it, take the W off of where, you're left with here. And there are two meanings to here. The physical here and now, and the here, as in the sound. Just as I am creating a disturbance in the ether, I am speaking, so I'm creating a vibration that is going out into the ether. And through technology, that disturbance into the ether is going far further than it would if I was, say, preaching on the hill 2,000 years ago. See, the story has been fixed to a historical point, but it is not. That is all part of the deception, to hide that this thing is playing out every day. It is not fixed to one setting. So the W is the magic. But we're in the realm, not of I am, but we're in its opposite of Maya, the mirror. So the M and the W again comes into this. So the was. So it's the W, the magic, the alpha spirit. So it's manifest, the material of the pattern of the spirit that resides within each and every one of you. And again, it is referenced here in this chapter 1, verse 5. The light shines in the darkness. Well, it is inside. So then when we go on to, where was it? Well, John, it talks about testifying, coming as a witness. Let's go on to chapter 3, that explains it. Where are we? This is what comes of not sort of going through this properly first before making a video. So bear with me, I will find it because I read it a little while ago. Where are we? Hold on, let's just stop the video and I'll find it. Right, silly me, so just carried on. It's verse 6. Chapter 1, verse 6. There was a man, see, there's the word was. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The light is what is inside you. If we take the word believe, for example, many will point to the lie part of it. But if you take the lie out, it say be in balance, be even. Finding that light within inside oneself, finding that balance within oneself between the external and the internal. This reality mimics and replicates because it cannot create. It is a carbon copy. So for many that can see what is going on in the external world and what is being played out, all the corruption of all these governments and things, basically what is actually evil, which is those that wish to have power over another. It is corruption. It is all an inside job But of course, because it cannot create something of its own, it is a mirrored reflection of something else. And that inside job is within you. As Anna Brown explained when she gave that very excellent and brief description of John 14:6, it's an inside job. You have to go in through the physicality. The Bethlehem, the house of bread, which is the gut feeling, that internal compass that is guiding you if you listen to it, regardless of what that external world is telling you. It is what is going on inside you. Go with that feeling every time. That is the truth. It is what is in the gut feeling. It's not what you think. You can't think your way out of this. It is about handing over the controls. Within the darkness is the light. It is the sun, the seed that is within you. It is your internal sun. There is nothing in the metaphysical that can come into the physical realm without taking a singular form. That is not to say that it can only take one singular form at a given moment. Just as this story in this what is basically the handbook of this reality, the knowledge of good and evil, the Bible, no matter how many times it has been rewritten and misinterpreted deliberately to trick people to giving their power away. It's not just a collection plate that comes round. It's not just asking for money. That's just a token ritual gesture. It is your energy that you're giving away because it is something, you're giving it to something that is external of you. That is not how it works. The creator of everything, the all, is in everything. It is the hidden red one. It is the hydrogen. It is the first element. Think about all. AU, it's the true gold. It is also when you are in all. Different spelling, but it's the same word, the same sound that is coming out. Same as adore. When you adore Christ, you are wearing. The garment is your physical body. When you find that Christ consciousness, that light within inside yourself, and you acknowledge yourself of who you really are, you are not the physical avatar, you are not the beliefs, you are not anything that you latch onto. They are just temporary. What happens to all those beliefs when the physical body dies, as it were, when the spirit and the matter separate again? Where do you think that goes? You've only got to look at the Egyptian mummification process. How valuable was the brain? That was skewered out with a stick through the nostrils and pulled out. That didn't matter. That is not where the true mind is. The true mind is the heart. It is in the balance again. It is not up here and it is not down there. The wisdom is in the gut feeling, but it needs that internal dialogue of the Trinity, the two into two and one, the triangle basically. You have a great pyramid inside you. You've got your third eye and it goes down to your sun and moon, which is in your gut. It's not just the sun, it's not just the place of the sun, it's the place of the, well, these days it's the moon. There was a light by the day and a light for the night, but that wasn't the moon. So it's two suns. You have two suns inside you. That is also your twin caduceus. So hopefully that has given a bit more clarity to this cloudy, sort of amusing divine comedy reality of Maya, where everything comes out in a bizarre way, primarily because there are those that wish to have power over others. That is essentially evil. Why would you want to have power over another being? Are you not happy with and contented with just living your own life you're walking two worlds as it is. You have an internal world which is far greater than this external realm, and you can go further, and you don't need anybody's permission to go further when it is all internal either. You can go anywhere you like. You collapse time and space when you go within oneself. And that is where the truth is revealed. It is a truth that is known only to one. So all these people that profess and babble what is basically nothing more than gossip and hearsay, something they have not witnessed for themselves. And how could you witness something that is allegedly 2,000 or whatever years ago? You cannot. But when you realize that this story is playing out every day, and when you begin to see that it plays out every day, forget the settings of the historical settings. Rewrite it if you want to and put it in a modern setting, but the story will still be the same. So this story plays out every day. So you can be the experiencer, the witness, and when you find what page you're on, you can also call upon this as another witness, the observation. This is just basically the God spell of John, but it says right on there, it gives you the all you really need to know about this reality. I am the light of the world. It is talking about you as an individual. When you find that light, that sun within inside yourself, and you raise it up inside yourself, you become a living God. You are an expression of a eternal pattern, a pater. It says here, if we go back to this John, it says, the Word was God. So how can it be something infinite? But it is now talking superficially as being in the past tense. But there is no beginning and end. It is something that is infinite. But when it comes into this reality, it is subject to something called time in this material realm. So the pattern becomes material with the union of the two. And then just like any computer game, just like in this construct, there is a time to play the game. You have a limited time to play the game, to experience. Then the physical matter will decay. But the spirit, the real you inside, does not. It then goes on, and depending on what you've achieved and how far you've got in this life experience from birth to death will determine your next one. I know this to be true from what has been revealed to me in past lives. This is a karmic debt that is being repaid. It is a rather unpleasant thought that I was probably a character like that John D, and many of you that I am friends with I probably burnt and made accusations against, and I'm very sorry for that, but that was a previous life. I feel and remember, I get odd bits come through about that life, and not that I really want to go through that. I don't want to relive that. I do not want to see the pain that's in that form, in that era, that I inflicted horrible tortures and burning people. That's horrendous. That's awful. That goes right against the very core of this being. But it is a part, you play all the parts, as Neville Goddard says. So just like the pattern of the sine wave, the sun, you'll go into the darkness, you'll go towards the Capricorn, but you'll also go towards the Cancer, to the light. You'll have your low points and your high points across many lifetimes. You could think of the equator line as being like a Passover, when you pass from one life to another one, and then you have an experience on the positive side, and then you'll probably have an experience on the negative side, and then you have the karmic debt. Right, I think hopefully that has cleared up some of the mystery and the mystification, the deliberate obscuring of a truth, an eternal truth, an infinite truth that has been set into an historical setting, because it is a rigged game, but it is all an inside job. I suggest that you go within yourself and you find that light within inside yourself. Although many that I speak to, I recognize you. I see that you have found the light. I can tell by the way you talk. I can tell what you talk about, your whole energy that is coming out of you. I recognize the Christ within you, because it is not restricted to one being. We are all reflections. It is a Christ all clear vision. When you find it within inside yourself, all will be revealed. It is such a simple message. Seek the kingdom within, and all will be given to you. So it's telling you in that, go within oneself, because the answers really are all there. That might sound bizarre to some of you. Oh, I don't know the answers. Well, you're not coming from the conscious mind. It's not from the thinking of the conscious mind that is tied to this material realm. It is just to guide you through this material realm, but don't let it run away with you. Go with the gut feeling of what feels right to you. That is what the truth is, not what anybody else says, not what I say. It is for you to find within oneself. That is where the answers are. Do not be fooled by all these silly fixed settings to these theatre shows, because the story, the message, is far more fluid and has multiple meanings. You have an astrological thing. Now, Christians will say, oh, don't touch astrology, don't touch tarot cards and all that. Well, were there not 3 wise men who were tracking and following a star of Bethlehem? Is that not, therefore, astrology? So, see the way they twist things and mess about with things and deliberately obscure. Most of them are just blindly following the gossip, the chitter-chatter, the bibble-babble, because they have not experienced, they cannot witness something. They are talking about it as a concept, a belief system, a BS. There are no coincidences in this reality. Belief system is BS, which is also bullshit, which is also bull worship. Right, got that off my chest. But hopefully it has brought more clarity for you about finding the light within oneself. That is all it takes. Find it within you. And I really hope that your gut has guided you, that you have not severed your spiritual connection. Something that Rudolf Steiner spoke about in 1917, of how your spiritual connection, there will be a way found to firewall you off from that spiritual connection. But of course, it comes down to batch numbers and serial numbers. I think you know what I'm referring to. Something that has been implemented through a huge experiment and a huge lie over the last almost 3 years. A ridiculous story that many have been perplexed but cannot understand or see. The sudden manufacture of the perspex, and has not even considered as to why would any business manufacture something, mass produce something, unless it has a buyer for it, unless something is not already pre-planned. The script of the scripture plays out every day. If you look at this reality, you'll see that it follows those same patterns. There are isometric patterns. I refer you to Archaic's channel, I refer you to Square Peg Divergent channel. She will show you further examples of this. I have done this on previous videos between Phoenix years, looking at lives of great composers, and when they created symphonies within their lifespans. And it is a self-proving pattern with all of these things. See, pattern, pater. It's an idea, it's a concept that becomes material again. Right, we're up to almost 30 minutes, so hopefully that has brought some clarity and maybe answered a few questions, things you may have been pondering. And it's all about crossing the waters, the pond, in the pondering, walking across the waters, as it were, is another expression. Again, it's all given in this Godspell of John. But read it and interpret it in a psychological manner. Don't be fooled by the historical settings. Realize that it is a drama that is playing out within you, within all of you. Each and every day, someone somewhere in the world is playing a part in that story. We all are. Love to you all, and ta-ta for now.